So I wanted to make a video discussing my thoughts on this whole stop killing game situation. So I'm not only going to talk about what it is and the pirate software drama, but I'm also going to talk about, my take and also like some solutions at the end. So I'm going to have timestamps. If you don't want to listen to like regurgitated information for like the 1000th time, you can skip around. Now, for those who don't know, Stop Killing Games is a consumer movement created by YouTuber Ross from Accursed Farms to challenge the legality of publishers killing games that they have sold to you. So let me put it simply. If a game you play connects to the online, it's basically on borrowed time. And so when the publisher eventually shuts down the game for whatever reason, you're not going to have access to the game. So I like to put the games that are affected into three buckets on a spectrum. So you have the first bucket where it's a completely online live service game, like League of Legends, World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XIV. So these completely rely on the server, and the client just shows you the calculations that are done on the server, stuff like that. And so you need to connect to multiplayer. Multiplayer is an integral part of the game, stuff like that. You have the second bucket, which is semi-online games. The only way I can describe this is games like Genshin Impact, games like The Crew, games like Avengers. So the main game, or I would say a major portion of the game, is on your client, and like something like a campaign or a story mode or things of that nature. And so most of the game you can really play offline, and then you have an online component like for games like Genshin Impact so that you don't cheat, and then for games like The Crew so that you can connect to other players and stuff like that. And then you have the third bucket, which is just single player games that need an online DRM, like Assassin's Creed 2 and stuff like that. And so the spectrum is basically online servers are integral to online servers are not really necessary. So this will be important later. Don't forget 3 buckets, from completely needing the server to not needing the server at all. So back to Stop Killing Games. One of the main ways that Ross is pushing his movement is with the European Citizens Initiative. So this is an initiative where if it gets 1 million signatures, it will be sent to legislators to actually talk about and make legislations on. So the reason why he's targeting the EU is because the EU is pretty based in terms of consumer rights, and if this law gets passed in the EU, that's already a big chunk of the gaming market. And so publishers will have to adopt these laws for the EU, and in turn they'll basically just adopt it for the worldwide market, because if you did all the work for the EU, why not just have it for the entire market, right? Now, how does this work? To keep it simple, an initiative is made and it's encouraged to be simple and easily understandable. Now, once it gets the required signatures, it's brought to the legislators with the heads of the initiative to talk details. And so in about like 6 months or something, you'll get a response and be told whether it'll be taken action upon or not, or whether like a legislation is necessary or not. And after that, if a legislation is needed, it's going to be drafted and everything is going to be taken into account. So corporations, developers, consumers, everybody, all sides are basically going to be taken into account when the draft is made. And obviously there's going to be like amendments and all that stuff. And then it can be submitted into law, right? So try to understand that the initiative is meant to be vague on purpose. It just starts the conversation, and the details will be worked out, and eventually everybody's sides will be taken into account, I think. Now, the vagueness of functional playable state, which is in the initiative, is also intentional. And this is so that developers have their own solution to the end of life plan for their game. If you don't want to release server binaries or open source the game, that's fine. You can figure it out your own way. And that kind of sounds condescending, but you get what I mean. It's to give the players, not the players, the publishers the freedom. Now, let's talk about the Pirate Software situation. Now, Pirate Software doesn't agree with this initiative. That's his opinion to have. And he also has reasons as to why he doesn't agree with it. But he made some mistakes. Firstly, he criticized the initiative for being too vague, which, like I said, was intentional. It's not the draft. It's like a 30,000 foot view, right? Now, he said it was vague, and he somehow misconstrued the initiative to think that it was only talking about like single player games that have DRM. Yes, the third bucket that we talked about, right? Which is wrong. We're targeting all the buckets. Now, I think the reason why he said that is that he believes that online live service games don't need to be preserved, which is a hot take, but I'll have my take on it later. But I believe that's kind of why he kind of moved into only thinking that the initiative was talking about only single player games with DRM. Now, he also thought that this would apply retroactively, which Ross said it won't apply retroactively. He also decided that this initiative will make live service games run forever, which the initiative explicitly said it's not trying to achieve. Companies have the right to end their game whenever they want. I'm pretty sure that's a given, as long as you do the right practice when you sunset your game. Now, he also provided a thought experiment of what would happen if this law were to pass. To summarize the thought experiment, if a bad actor wants to profit off of your live service game, they're going to maliciously like spam your game with bots, and take down your community basically until like it forcefully kills the game. And then under this law, he said you have to release the server binaries, which you don't have to do. That's an option, but you don't have to do that. But he said you're going to have to release the server binaries, and now the bad actor can take control of those server binaries and like monetize it or whatever. Now, god damn, this goes back to the vagueness of functional playable state, which is why you don't have to release server binaries if you don't want to. You can do like some other method. And as for like the malicious attacks, I felt like he defeated his own point when he brought up the TF2 example, which proves that this already happens whether the law gets passed or not. It already happens. It's something that's part of the job. Like, it's what you sign up for when you make an online game. You're going to have to deal with bots. You're going to have to moderate your community. That's part of the job. I mean, yeah, there's now an incentive to like increase like bot activity and like bad behavior in the community. I'll concede on that, but it's something that you already have to work on regardless. So like this whole thought experiment, I feel like was kind of fear-mongering, I'm not gonna lie. Now, he did make some good points. He's right that live service games should not just die, and like developers should have the creative freedom to make whatever they want. But to play devil's advocate, if a game that takes advantage of its consumers is too hard to make with the consumer in mind, should such a game really exist? I don't know. Look, all of this is fine. I think it invites conversation, and yes, he has good points, obviously. And like I said, yeah, he has bad points, but that doesn't mean he should be barred from like being part of the conversation. Which is why I feel like the only part of this that really fucking peeved me was the fact that he does not want to engage in conversation with Ross Scott. You made the videos with the intention of being the voice for developers that can't speak due to the fear of them losing their jobs. You even said that at the end of the video, that this initiative, doesn't take developers' side into account, and that devs should weigh on this. My brother in Christ, if the developers cannot speak, and you don't want to speak, which developer is gonna fucking speak? Let me play devil's advocate again. So let's say this had 1 million signatures and it was passed into law. What were you gonna do? Were you still just gonna keep quiet like you did the whole 10 months and just not give any input? You said you give a shit about it, yet you don't want to correct the initiative at all, since from your perspective, it's all wrong and shit. Like, that kind of fucking peeves me, bro. And for all the criticism that he had, Ross did eventually respond to all of it. Let's not get into like all the name calling and all the stuff that he did. Like, okay, whatever. Now I want to move on from this situation. It's already happened, but I still want to give my take on things. I, for one, fully support the initiative. The initiative, not the law, not a draft, not a law, the initiative. And I have done so since its inception. I only found out about like this pirate drama like recently, and I was like up till 2 a.m. watching videos and just trying to like form my own opinion. Like, Thor said that? No way, right? I mean, he must have a good reason, right? But like, to be honest, like, Pirates PR has done like a complete 180 in like 6 months. This is like the craziest downfall of a streamer that I've ever seen. But okay, like, enough. Okay, moving on. So I think this is a fantastic start in the right direction. Unfortunately, it has failed, but I believe, this sets the stage for somebody to pick up the torch and move forward while learning from the past mistakes. And I feel like Ross did make a few mistakes, and so we can learn from that and move on. Man, if only we had some sort of liaison that understood the issues and has a way into government. Okay, I'm kind of half joking, but it's just a theory. I stopped killing games. I feel like there's like 10 different routes to the issue at hand. And while Ross's idea of using video games, to set precedent for consumer rights and licensing and all that was, a pretty good idea, I actually feel like it should be the opposite. Because gaming ownership is literally built on a castle of sand. That is the current IP and licensing laws and like consumer rights, which is not modernized for the internet age, and other issues. Like, I was up thinking about this stuff, man. I went into rabbit holes, bro. Like, let's talk about licensing and IP rights, right? I feel like it's way too pro corporate, especially in video games. Like, let's take The Crew. The Crew has to license cars from, real car companies, right? What's weird to me is that the license is not permanent. That's fucking dumb, bro. And yes, I am asking for reform of like this kind of licensing law. Like, IP holders should 100% control how their brand is seen. But once it's put in a game or some other medium, like, there shouldn't be a time limit on it. Like, apply this logic to any other medium. Like, if Mission Impossible had a license to like use, I don't know, like an Aston Martin in the movie. So are you telling me like in 10 years, the Aston Martin car is gonna be wiped from all the footage? Like, no, that shit's not gonna fucking happen, bro. That's kind of dumb. Like, licensing in the case of using like internet and IPs and like other mediums, like, that should be perpetual. Like, none of this like 10-year lease bullshit, bro. Like, same with music. Like, I don't play like GTA 5 and all that stuff, but I've heard of like how Rockstar basically stripped the fucking radio due to like music licenses expiring. Like, that's really fucking dumb. Plus, like, back when you couldn't patch a game, I'm pretty sure licenses would have to be fucking perpetual, like in Gran Turismo or something. I don't know. Like, make it make sense, bruh. Okay, now consumer ownership. I think by virtue of microtransactions, live service games should be preserved. Like, because you paid for goods and you should be able to access those goods wherever you want, however you want. So long as you aren't banned or like you don't have access to the hardware or whatever, I guess. right? Like, I want to be able to see my Reaver Vandal whenever I want. I want to see my anime waifu whenever I want.
You know how much I sacrificed?
I think that alone is enough to have live service games preserved. If not strictly for game preservation itself, right? Now let me get on to actual solutions. I've divided this into 2 segments. So one segment is going to be the grass is green, rainbows and unicorns solution. That will never happen. The ideal solution. And the other side is going to be obviously the pragmatic and the realistic solution. So ideally, there would be a massive archive of games that hosts all games, offline, online, live service or not. This can be government affiliated or intergovernmental, like the UN or some shit, I don't know. But basically, a massive repository of archived games with private servers for the online ones, with version control. So you can choose which version of the game you want to play. If I want to play Season 2 of Rainbow Six Siege, I just click a button, get to Season 2, the version Season 2 was in, boom, play that with private servers with my homies. If I want to play Genshin Impact 2.0, that's kind of dumb. That's kind of a dumb reason, but if I want to, click that, boom, done. I said ideal solution for a reason, right? Now, realistically, what can we do? Now, I think this is a hot take, but we concede all currently running games. It's a lost cause. I'm sorry. WoW's not going to get preserved. League is not going to get preserved. If they want to, they can, but the law will not apply to currently running games. But it will apply to games for the future, which is really what the law is trying to do. It's trying to make sure that developers in the future have a sunset plan in mind when they develop games from now on. And so, games from now on must be made with an end-of-life plan in mind. Be it server binaries, open sourcing, whatever the hell. If an end-of-life plan is not ideal, like, oh, we cannot release server binaries, that's IP, obviously we can't do open source, obviously. If nothing is ideal, then the company must be barred from going after fan revival projects. Do not underestimate the ingenuity of a dedicated fan base. Reverse engineering, stuff like that, like the company cannot go after that. Now, it also serves as a good litmus test to understand like which games are actually in need of preserving through like, you know, the consumer interest. Now, the company can still go after malicious monetization practices, but if the company is dead, like if the company is shut down, dissolved, then, hey man, the gloves are off. There's no profit being lost. There's no market. It's not replacing anything in the market. So, I mean, hey man, it is what it is. That kind of got a bit ideal towards the end, but you get the gist, right? Now, don't cease and desist fan projects if you're not supporting the game anymore, basically, right? That being said, I feel like I've said all I wanted to say on this topic. I really hope somebody does pick up the torch at some point. Shit, if I become financially well off, I might do it. You know what I mean? But for now, our best bet is to just wait for government to be run by people who actually understand how technology works and who've actually played video games, right? But that's about it. Ciao.